Hi, I'm Claire and it's day 2 of the 12 days of Clairemas. And today we're going to take a look at the end of year reading survey that is always floating around on BookTube at this time of year. I'm going to do another video on my favourite books of the year, but the great thing about the reading survey is that the questions are a little bit more varied than just your favourite books. So I thought it'd be great to give it a go and see if I notice any cool patterns in my reading, just to inform what I want to do in 2019 a bit more. First up, how many books did you read and did you meet your goals? So my Goodreads goal for this year was originally 80 books and I have just lowered it to 60 the other day to try and make sure I can actually hit that goal. I want to have the little challenge complete thingy on my Goodreads, I want that to show up on my page. Right now, as I'm recording this, I've read 47 books this year, but I've got quite a few that I'm currently reading. I'm in the middle of them, and I should be able to finish them before the end of the year. I've still got a good few days that I've got off work where I can relax and get some reading in. As you can see, I'm feeling pretty relaxed about not hitting my original goal and lowering it and not being quite sure if I can hit the lower goal, and that's because I had this massive reading slump earlier in the year where I didn't read pretty much any original fiction for 3 months. So I'm happy with my reading now and with my reading in the month when I did read original fiction. Mostly I'm happy that I managed to beat that giant reading slump and that I'm excited about reading books again. Most read genre. Now off the top of my head I couldn't tell if it was going to be science fiction or fantasy, but according to Goodreads, I've read 3 more science fiction stories than I have fantasy. The surprising thing for me was how many books I read that I would classify as contemporary. Mostly that was comics like Check Please, Giant Days, Fence, things like that, but also YA novels like Ship It or Chaotic Good. Those were things that I really enjoy, so I need to make sure I read some more of those types of books next year. Longest and shortest book that you read. My longest read of the year was Fellowship of the Ring. That was a reread, and my shortest book of the year was The Fisher of Bones by Sarah Gailey. I wasn't surprised that this one was the shortest because it was one season of the story as it was originally released that was on the website Serial Box. And the thing is, there's clearly going to be more in that story. They must have another season planned or something because it was only 104 pages and it didn't really feel finished to me by the end of it. Well, Tabby has cruelly abandoned us to go and eat some biscuits before it's her dinner time, so we're going to have to continue with a much less interesting background, but there you go. Next up is your favourite book and your favourite debut of 2018. My favourite book published in 2018, I'm going to say Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. The comic was published on her website before that, but the print edition came out in 2018 and I loved it. And for favourite debut, I've got to say Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. It had this really striking post-apocalyptic urban fantasy-ish setting and the characters were really awesome. I became very attached to them. And the sequel is coming out in 2019. It's called Storms of Locust and I'm really excited for it. Favorite book not published this year, I'm gonna say the whole Society of Gentlemen series by KJ Charles, especially the second book called A Seditious Affair, which I read in really early 2018. Those books were really great and I made a whole video about how much I liked them, so that will be linked somewhere. Next up is a book that lived up to the hype, and for this one I'm going to say The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. I had really high hopes for this book because it's based on this short story that Kowal wrote that won the Hugo called The Lady Astronaut of Mars, and I loved that short story. Honestly, this book packs so much in. There's this hard sci-fi element because we're in the space race, and there's almost a soft sci-fi element, but that's because it's a historical novel and it spans this huge long period of time. I was never bored. I thought the writing was really masterful, really impressive. Next up is a book that did not live up to the hype, and for this I have to say Adrift by Rob Beaufort. I was really excited about the premise of the book, but for me the characters in this one just did not work. They felt really cliche and I just didn't want to spend a whole book with them, so I didn't finish the whole book. A book that felt like your biggest accomplishment. Definitely The Power by Naomi Alderman. If you've seen the wrap-up where I talked about it, you'll know I had many issues with that book, and those issues started bugging me from the beginning of reading it. Every time I put it down, I really was reluctant to go back to it, but also I made myself finish it because I wanted to have a fully informed opinion about it so I could rant about it. And it feels like an accomplishment now, honestly, because it felt so much like a chore when I was reading it. Favorite character? Murderbot. Hands down Murderbot. Definitely Murderbot. Love Murderbot. Least favorite character? Now my favorite love to hate character would be Ken Parsons from Check Please, but my actual least favorite character was one of the characters from Adrift, who was introduced as this like shouting angry man with some kind of nefarious secret past, and you could tell that the narrative was setting him up to be a sort of like unlikable savior figure. Like, he's an asshole, but he's got all the skills and he's gonna save the day, and therefore his being an asshole will all be forgiven, and I could not be bothered with that, which is one of the main reasons I did not finish that book. Most shocking book or moment? The End of Saga Volume 9. If you have read it, you definitely know what I mean. Favorite couple or OTP? For this one, I absolutely have to say Jack and Bitty from Check Please. I know I keep bringing up Check Please, but this is the year that I got obsessed with this comic. I read the full thing several times, I read a ton of fanfiction for it, so because of that, Jack and Bitty feels a lot more like an OTP to me. I'm invested in them in a more fanish way than I am other couples that I read about in, you know, romance subplots in other books, or even in romance novels. The best written book you read this year. If this was the best written novel, it would definitely go to the Calculating Stars, but it's the best written book. So this is going to How to Suppress Women's Writing by Joanna Russ. It is non-fiction, but it is written with such enduring clarity. It is really impressive and sadly very impactful still today. The book that you pushed the most people to read in 2018. I'm not sure, but I would say probably Check Please, just because it's a webcomic and it's kind of easy to direct people to the website where they can read it for free. But if there's a book that you read because of me this year, please let me know in the comments. It's honestly my favorite thing about making booktube videos, when people tell me that they read something because of me, because I talked about it, and that they loved it. It makes me a little bit emotional every single time. Favorite book cover of the year? For this one, I'm bringing out Trail of Lightning again, because look at that awesome metallic sheen. I don't think it reads very well on camera, but it's actually metallic. It is very pretty. Yeah, I don't think you can tell, but it's really beautiful in person. Favorite adaptation? Can I say To All the Boys I've Loved Before, if I haven't actually read To All the Boys I've Loved Before yet? Because I've seen that and I loved it. It was very, very cute. What book made you cry the most? Several of the stories in Toil and Trouble made me cry. The one I cried at the most, the one that really got me right in the feels, was the final story in the book, which was by Elizabeth May. I think she's got a novel out next year, so I'm gonna have to check that out. What book made you laugh the most? That would definitely be the Sarah Scribbles collections by Sarah Anderson. They are Adulthood is a Myth, Big Mushy Happy Lump, and Herding Cats. They are hilarious, and if you've been on Twitter for like a day and a half, you've probably seen drawings from her. She's amazing. A new favorite author you discovered this year? There are a few of those. For romance, I have to say KJ Charles was a great find, and for SFF, Rebecca Rowanhorse, who I've already talked about, and P. Djeli Clark, who wrote The Black Goddess Drums, which I love. Again, he's got something out next year, so that's really exciting. Favorite book you reread this year? That would be Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers. I loved rereading those and getting immersed in Middle-earth again. I am probably not going to start The Return of the King until 2019, but I'm sure that one will be another favorite when I get to it. Finally, were you happy with your reading year, and what will you do differently in 2019? Now, looking back at my year in review, I feel the same as I kind of always do, that I missed out on so many things that I wanted to get to, so I'm a little sad, but also I'm really happy with plenty of what I've read. I'm really happy that I decided to split my reading between novels and shorter works about 50-50. I think that has worked super well for me, and I want to keep doing that going forwards. But in 2019, I want to work on reading more varied genres and discovering more new-to-me authors. That's something that I feel has been lacking a bit this year. So that's it. This was my take on the reading survey for 2018. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below about a new author that you discovered this year, or someone whose books you want to try in 2019. I still need to think on it, but I'm definitely going to structure at least one of my 2019 reading goals around reading new to me authors. And by the way, my 2019 reading goals will be coming later in the 12 Days of Claremont, so do keep an eye out for that video as well. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video on screen right now. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button that's on my face for a new video from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.